Greetings, a good AM. This is Taveau Arcy of Taveau Creative Leadership. Our ministry is to the body of Christ, to the submit Sila rather than dogma. Many times dogma accuses, and so what I'm teaching on is usually on here is about against legalism, back under the law. We are for the teaching of the New Testament. It's just not the letter of the law, but he submitted it as a precept, as the spirit of the law in New Testament times. I'm speaking to the church because I'm giving a word from the Lord as revealed to me. Like I said, it's not accusative. It is assessing a need to address this and fill in some gaps of modern-day Christian teaching. Every webcast, every podcast, every audio, every written article is only addressed to the you must be born again Christians, no matter what your style, your race, your culture, but it's as a Selah, but also as a word of wisdom, not under the law. Our ministry has given this words so that anyone who is not of the Christian faith is certainly respected and valued and welcome to listen, but we want to know that if we have a very upfront, candid, frank opinion, it is only to the Christian, ye old born-again Christian, and so that we can be noble Bereans and really seek who's really teaching what is under the law, what is finger pointing, what is accusing people of adultery from far off, what is omitting certain relationship really respecting verses such as Ephesians 4 body community, Ephesians 4 1 and 3 humility, everyone in humility, everyone in mutual respect, and also under the common doctrine of one Lord, one faith, one baptism, instead of all the finger-pointing, critical accusation. What is the next part would be, what is about Ephesians 5:21? It says mutual submission in the fear of the Lord, including home, family, ministry, and life in a Christian sense. And then what is apostolic? As in chief apostolic, the founder of any individual God-called, God-commissioned work, male or female, black or white, brown or tan, bond or free, anyone really hears from the Lord. What is the difference between what's going on right now that invokes accusation, who's over who's under who, not under the law, and I'm not with that crowd, not with that big crew. What is about Paul's own writings of Galatians 6:1. Galatians 6:1 is a lot on my topic. That's about respectful, humble confrontation of sin. So excuse me for that one, but might as well get a PS for that word. The other one is Galatians 1 and 2, which is our role model here for our authority, our governing authority. It says Paul, the chief apostle, Paul, an apostle called out by God, not called out. He's not sent from anyone else but God, not sent by any one man, one person, or one group, and that's us. And I really felt today that it's sane. It is really sane and wise to be everyone, primarily everyone who's mature, who's not a novice, old or young, in their thinking. I think you need to really ask God about being your own individual sent out by God. That didn't mean we avoid being accountable. Not at all. It's the opposite. It's not avoiding being a lone warrior. No, we believe in being mutual respect, mutual submission, the fear of the Lord for everyone, everywhere. Our kind it's been so pharisaical, so accuser, rumor-mongering, spreading of, blackballing, reputation, smearing, old and young, up and down the East Coast, out here, many places around, this life, that we feel it's important we call attention to this not well-known verse for leadership, Galatians 6. Hey, Galatians 6:1 pops up in my spirit. So that's also a missing verse about real respect with humility of a leader confronting somebody they think is in sin, or they see them, catch them in a known sin. So let's put that in there with this one, but my word is about Galatians 1 and 2. Authority. That it will eliminate everyone needing to be over everybody. You walk into a room, let's say, for example, as a female, a brand new person in town, and instead of people, to me, it's never been a dark-skinned Christian minister that has ever done that to me. They're wise. But I've walked in certain places where that spirit is, the religious Levitical patriarch spirit. And you go in there to say, hi, I'm a peer, I'm a brand new kid in town in ministry, and instead they perceive you as there to be under them. They don't want to know you. They're under the law. They don't want to know you because they've seen you as first your earth suit, your female earth suit, your age, your look, your hair, whatever it is. Could be your black person, a white person. And they say, oh, good, it's one of them. They're meant to be serving under us. Now we possess them. We own them. We're in authority. We need to usurp our authority over them because we don't feel they're good enough, or we don't perceive them as equal opportunity peers based on our own motto is based on Psalm 139. God made everybody equally and good and great, and that we need to perceive that office of the human and offer each one without a doubt, without reservation, equal opportunity, real respect, from the lowest person that you would think is low to you to the very top of every office in the nation and every church, every fellowship. And this would be every gender, every person that made to man. All right. So we're back under the teaching, but not under the law. If I really examine noble Berean style to Apostle Paul, which I have, who's a chief apostle who wrote 2/3 of the Bible, God gave him the grace, allowed him to get the revelation and wisdom, according to Ephesians 1:17, in the knowledge of him. That means being with him. We recall that Apostle Paul was in the first church, and he was ostracized, given the left foot of fellowship when he first got converted and saved and born again. So he tried to fellowship and be a co-laborer. He wanted to help them in the church of Jerusalem establish things. But after meeting with Paul for 2 weeks, I think it was Peter and Barnabas, anyway, Paul left to go with the Arabs up in Damascus, which is now Syria. And Paul had plenty of time to get with God and hear from the Holy Spirit, the downloads. And when he was there, he was not many Christians. So God gave him many things, much authority, even though he was not. Really, he was accused by the first apostles who were mentored by Jesus. They didn't want him because they were suspicious of him. He was a new revelation of God's energy. You know, every apostle, a real apostle, somebody who births the work, has a special dispensation of some kind of God's authority, his rule, his anointing, his flow, his revelation. And that may give you a vibe that the old crowd, the establishment, doesn't quite want, understand, or think they really need, because they're wrapped up in their own teaching. And many good people, my mother, who is a pastor's wife, my father was a pastor, my mother used to say, you know, I've studied, we were Baptists back then. She said, you know, I watched, and when the crowd that is disfavored, they're the brand new ones with revelation and ministry, nobody wants them. They're not, you know, they're rejected, they're not well accepted, they don't have enough established credibility, so people, you know, fear them or look down on them. She says, I've seen this principle all my life, that when they get to be known and they set themselves up and their revelation is now cool, accepted, they have their teaching, their ministry, people flock to them, then they are the ones that get hard in their own fast religion, and they look down on the next crowd coming up. So in my opinion, I'm submitting this, that my opinion after all these years, decades in ministry, is that, you know, you have to know that we're never arrived. We never arrive, but there's always a new move asleep in the nursery somewhere, and we need to have humility and genuineness and noble Berean. And then when it says, because I've had this experience, it says, do not touch my prophets, do not touch my anointed, do my prophets no harm. That can also mean the ones in the seats, the ones who are unformed and immature in the audience, and also ones in the nursery. So we want to be careful, because Phariseeism, oh my, accusation, rivalry, competitive fear, using false doctrine like submission, you know, because they're different. I can't imagine what I think of the people that would be examples of a new person that was quite feared, and Martin Luther in Germany, and Martin Luther King and the civil rights movement in America. And then we have John Wesley. Each one were newbies, new kids in the spiritual sense on the block, and they started off without fame or movements. I found a quote from John Wesley, his diary, and it said, he preached and nobody came. He preached another place, they kicked him out. He preached another place in a field. They they turned the bulls against him in the field. And then finally he went out one day and he preached in a meadow, and 10,000 people showed up. So that's the pioneering apostle of the new work. It's not looked up to, it's looked down on, it's spat on, and even the old Christian moves will often be unloving and use the Bible in a legalistic sense or their own pet theology to weed them out. I think of the need to be no Bereans research, and I respectfully submit this, to really iron out and make this a loving move of God. You want to have it where it is balanced with reproving, 2 Timothy 3:16 through 17, which is part of our ministry, that whole verse. For doctrine, the Word of God is profitable for doctrine, reproving, correction, instruction, so that the man and woman of God will be thoroughly furnished. And that means the fear of the Lord as well. What is the fear of the Lord? The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And when you have no fear of the Lord, it's the beginning of what? Chaos, confusion, and immaturity. So we are here in a place where God has sent us to leaders, and it's a leadership move to Christians, and then we toss it out. I guess it's like a tennis ball. We hit the ball into your court, whichever way you get it, and then it's up to you and the Lord to decide if you want to receive it, noble Berean it, or really accept it as a word given from the Lord to you. Right now, I believe that we really better get everybody in their own authority and quit all this one-upmanship, this proud arrogance, foolishness that says you got to be everybody watching like a Pharisee to see who's over who's under who, are they submitted, jumping people in public like I've had happen to me, just showing up without any relationship, prejudging a female for being in rebellion, for looking too strong. And when I used to be persecuted, and that's how I got strong, and I had a lot of grief in my life and trial. And that's what went to the Lord alone, and I found a lot of this doctrine was untrue that's out there. So I think every male, every female, every black, every white, every brown, every tan, every person of good faith and good cheer needs to go to the Lord and research and say, am I going to be in more trouble or less trouble if I hear God for myself and balance it with the Bible, with always respecting all authority, which having people that are proven to speak into my life, hold me accountable. I'm held accountable. I believe in that. But that didn't mean you're owned or governed. Paul, who came back from Arabia with no tale-bearing, no prejudice against Arabs, came back and wrote 2/3 of the New Testament to the churches under great duress, prison cells, home imprisonment, shipwreck, all those things, yet he got the abundance of the revelation, and it's sweet to you and me. So we want to revere the good things, and I put on the top of online fellowship the difference, how you can help weed out the law in New Testament times and today by comparing it with Ephesians 4, but also the what is being taught today is the letter of the law, finger pointing in local fellowships, Phariseeism. And you can help compare what you've heard, like hairstyle, look, day of attendance, go to church or not, all those things, which are usually Pauline type things, women in the church, all that stuff. And I've thought of a lot of, I've put it down and said it before, it won't be on this podcast, but I've thought of it before about the women, about the, all these different things that people love to use traditionally to cause bitterness, destruction, accusation. And I'm not going to do that. So when you look at the choice, I feel like why would God send Paul to give him the revelation of Galatians 1:1 and 2, not under anyone, but yet respectful to all, submitted in mutual respect to all. Even in Galatians 3, he openly rebukes the elders of Galatia for being back under the law, under witchcraft. And maybe they were under the false government of the teaching which is out there today in certain parts, controlling Levitical legalism. So we look, well, why would Paul mention that? Why would he mention his first authority at the very beginning of the opening of the whole book, Galatians 1:1 and 2? Why would he declare his own freedom, that he's not sent to them by any one man or any one group, not even them? Why? Because they probably were on his case using their Levitical law. Well, Paul, you're not under anybody like we are. You're not submitted. Therefore, you're not welcome in our church. So we're pointing this out. Why would God use this even today, right now? Why? Because Paul couldn't be bought. He couldn't be ruled by anybody else that would stop his message. Primarily, I believe that Paul was accountable. He had other people with him. He knew the law, but he wasn't under the law, the spirit and letter of the law. That's a heavy burden. He came to teach us to renew our minds. Well, anyway, I'm just putting this out as a mini installment. I have many more thoughts on this, but I want you to know that you have, if you're mature, if you really hear it and you understand this and you're wise and you're not a flake and you're not a caustic, toxic person who just wants to use license, lasciviousness, that means, oh, I want to do it because it sounds good, I'm not knowing what it really means, then you have God's permission to investigate like a Noble Brand to see if this is your choice. We are, right now, because we are so different, we've been so different, and we're now meeting the kinds that are also, we are for those who have bigger groups and are under all this authority, because if you have a giant organization, you have to have revealed, downloaded authority, and we're for that revelation of hierarchy or whatever without legalism. But because we've seen the worst brunt of it, Pharisee accusation, usually in the smaller grassroots ministry, then that is why we teach on it. We need to get that out now for freedom. I'm meeting ladies and men who need this every turn of the road, it seems. They have a glimpse of it, but they feel guilty because they're not a part of a big, huge system, or they're accused by the Pharisees that they're not under somebody, someplace. Well, I got to go. This is Taveau DRC signing off for now. If you need prayer, write me at dfwleader.com, and also, if you would like to share in sowing, you can go to onlinefellowship.us and look for giving, and we will receive it with great honor and blessing and joy. For the future cause of our ministry to go tour around, we want to get a tour bus and go tour around the born again and make sure they're really ready to meet the Lord if he comes, that the Christians are really saved. Our mission is Clear Vision 2020 in America. God bless you. Have a great day today. Bye-bye.